This is Akashvani. In the weekly program Current Affairs, now we bring you a discussion on deepening politico-economic crisis in Pakistan. The participants are Ashok Sajjanhar and Anil Vadha, former diplomats, and Nirova Roy Chaudhary, journalist.
Pakistan is again in the midst of a political ferment which this time appears a lot worse because it is combined with an awfully bad rather a precarious financial and economic situation as well, with the Pakistani rupee actually touching 300 rupees to a dollar yesterday. Given the circumstances around their precarious economic situation, this political impasse between former Prime Minister Imran Khan, his arrest, the Supreme Court ordering his subsequent release. Things are very, very fluid at this point of time in Pakistan, and it's unclear which way things are headed. I am joined today by two former leading diplomats, Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar and Ambassador Anil Vadha, who are going to try and, explain for us what exactly is happening at this point of time in our neighboring country. Ashok, I'll start with you. What exactly do you think is the reason behind this sudden conflagration that took place in terms of the arrest of Imran Khan day before yesterday, his subsequent release yesterday, and the very, very tense situation between the government and now the courts and, of course, the armed forces?
Yeah, thank you very much, Nilova, for having me on the program. So maybe just two comments I could give before coming to the present situation. That is that Imran Khan, he left his position, or rather he was forced to leave his position in April last year. He went out kicking and screaming, although he had lost the majority in the Pakistan Legislative Assembly. After that, he has been demanding that there should be elections to the National Assembly, that is to the Parliament of the country, because he has a huge popularity. He has been spewing venom against the Pakistan army, also the Pakistan establishment, Pakistan government of Shehbaz Sharif. He says that this is an imported government. This is a government that has been imposed on Pakistan by America. And it was America that was responsible for his dethronement last April. And in between, whenever there were elections held, Imran Khan's party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, has swept those polls, has swept those elections. So he has emerged as the most popular leader in the country today. So he wants elections, and of course the government of Shehbaz Sharif, which is a PDM government, Pakistan Democratic Movement government, so they don't want elections to take place in a hurry, because they know that if the elections take place, they would lose. The second point is that since last year when he lost his position, there are more than 120 cases that have been filed against Imran Khan. And they are of different nature. They are even of treason. They are of corruption. They are of blasphemy. So there was a warrant that was issued under what is known as the Tosha Khana case against him. The police went to arrest him from his Zaman residence, but the supporters of Imran Khan did not allow his arrest to take place.
Anil, the fact that Imran Khan's supporters actually have been directly targeting the army and the armed forces establishments, including the Lahore Corps commanders, residents and so on, it's very ironic considering that Imran Khan himself came to power in 2018 riding on the back of the armed forces. What exactly is happening now?
So I think what has happened in Pakistan is that in particular Imran has been on a rally spree because he's been trying his best to maintain the popularity that he enjoys amongst the youth and the middle class. Of course, all these charges of corruption, terrorism and treason which have been leveled against him, and his, I think, deplorable performance as Prime Minister in terms of fulfilling his election promise of Naya Pakistan, the question is how come he enjoys so much of mass support? That is because, he has been persistently demanding for early general election, unacceptable to the ruling elite. And the people of Pakistan feel that because of the appeal that he has amongst the people and the probability of his victory is undeniably high, they feel that the army is shielding the current government and denying the elections which should be held in their view now, because somehow or the other, the narrative of the Shahbaz Sharif government being put in by foreign forces, and United States, of course, is the main country which is mentioned in this regard by Imran Khan himself in Parliament when he read out excerpts from telegrams, etc., very dramatically. So the sentiment seems to have turned in his favor because of this feeling that the army is looting the country along with the current government which has been installed by foreign forces, and that they are trying to pursue cases against Imran through the National Accountability Bureau, which is the anti-corruption agency, to remove him from the political scene and delay these elections.
Anil, I'll hold you right there and go back to Ashok on this one. Do we get a sense that there is actually a popular kind of sentiment across the country that the armed forces are part of the whole corrupt establishment who have been inefficient? Would that be a correct assessment now? Is that part of the reason for Imran Khan's popularity?
I think that would be quite close to the assessment, to the correct situation as it prevails today, Niloa, because, in the past, the army was really put on a very high pedestal. The army would project itself as the only institution which could provide security to the country, and they projected India as the implacable enemy. And if the country had to be saved from this enemy, then of course there was no other option but to support the army. And that is why you see that all the generals, all the senior officers of the armed forces, they would have such a luxurious life, and even after their retirement they would be given very many perks and privileges. Even as far as the trading policy of the country was concerned, there were so many facilities and subsidies and provisions made for imports by the armed forces. But before that, of course, no one could really raise a little finger against the army. But over the last 1 year that Imran Khan has been out of favor of the army, I think he has been able to tarnish the image of the army very substantially, very significantly. And that is why when he was arrested on the 9th of May, and in the manner in which he was arrested from the Islamabad High Court where he'd gone to give his biometrics, and he was pulled out, and there were more than 100 Pakistan Rangers there. I think that is what infuriated his supporters, and they went on a total rampage throughout the country. Now, of course, the government says that about sometimes they say 15 people were killed, sometimes 12 people were killed. But I was talking to some people, they said that at least 37 people died in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So that is what has really come to pass at this moment.
Anil, the thing is that Pakistan has been through similar crises in the sense that the civilian authority and the armed forces have been at loggerheads. In the past, you would normally have had things like coups being perpetrated against elected civilian governments. And in fact, it is a fact that no single civilian government has actually completed its entire term. Now, that being the case, is it the actual financial situation this time that makes this crisis seem like a more scary scenario for the country in terms of it almost seeming to be a failing state? Would that be again a correct assessment, Anil?
I think you are right in your assessment there, Niloa, because in the past, Pakistan's debt burdens have been quite often eased by its friends and allies who believed the stability in Pakistan was in their strategic interest. But this phase of the economic crisis in Pakistan is experiencing a different positioning from Pakistan's traditional donors, where the commitments have been limited, because IMF has been very tough this time with conditions and scrutiny. China has promised some money, while Saudi Arabia and the UAE have committed to some relief, but no substantive commitments have been made that could potentially allow Pakistan to evade an economic default very clearly. It's in the pipeline, of course. We keep hearing about it, and we keep hearing statements from the Pakistani Minister for Finance, but it's not actually materialized so far. And also, over the years, what's happened is that Pakistan's so-called friends have witnessed the nation's incapability to overcome financial distress, even with constant external assistance. Then the other thing is that Pakistan's relevance at the global level also seems to have declined. And now, if I may come back to the support of Imran Khan, in Pakistan, the military somehow has always prevailed with the civilian government. So far, what's happened is, because of this background of the economic crisis, you have a targeting of the armed forces also by ordinary Pakistanis because of the economic situation. But the military until now has been restrained from stepping in overtly to exercise its direct control. I don't think Imran can come back to power if he maintains this tough stance against the military, because this arrest was aimed at compelling him to agree to the terms of conditions of the establishment. Now the military's image has been tarnished further, and senior officers have been called corrupt and traitors by Imran in public. So anti-military campaigns do not have a long shelf life in Pakistan. And again, we've seen that the military's media wing, the inter-services public relations, in a press release, they've warned Imran supporters of severe retaliation if the attacks on military and state installations continue. So the use of force and intimidation to curtail opposition has been part of Pakistan military culture, and a crackdown on PTI workers has begun, and there's been many arrests already. So we will see a further crackdown, in my opinion, in Pakistan.
But Ashok, it's very strange, isn't it, that the day Imran was arrested, which was the day before yesterday, the fact that his supporters immediately sort of went on the rampage, targeting military establishments, and didn't seem to be any kind of reprisal or any attempt by the armed forces to actually hit back immediately. Isn't that kind of strange? There's an interesting article which says that the army and Imran Khan both have reached a sort of an impasse whereby the army will have to, if it wants to retain its control, lay down the law and, stop this kind of targeting of it. And Imran Khan, if he wishes to retain his popularity, will equally have to be as vocal and as stringent in his opposition of the army. Would that be a correct assessment?
I think that would be a correct assessment, Nilova, because I think what happened on the 9th and 10th also, before the Supreme Court stepped in, I think this is totally unprecedented and this was totally unanticipated. For these supporters of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, that is Imran Khan's party, for them to go to the residence of the Corps Commander in Lahore and also to go to the GHQ in Rawalpindi and be on a rampage there, destroy the property, go inside and do all sort of absolutely unimaginable things there. I think this was totally unexpected. And some people are also suggesting that maybe this was a sort of a conspiracy by the army, that they would allow these protesters a free hand so that they could be booked under charges of damaging public property and treason, because they are acting against the army. And some of the statements that came out by the army, and I could mention one of them, and that has been repeated by Maryam Aurangzeb, the information minister also. What the army said was that what our eternal enemy was not able to do in 75 years, the supporters of Imran Khan have been able to do that. So things have been really incomparable to whatever has happened in the past.
I'm not even going down the road of what India-Pakistan relations would sort of develop into, given this impasse in Pakistan. But realistically, what do you think, Anil, is likely to happen? Even if the IMF bails out Pakistan, Pakistan at this point apparently has barely $4.5 billion in its reserves, which is just about enough for a month of imports. IMF is supposed to be negotiating for a 1.1 billion loan lifeline. How is this country supposed to be surviving just financially? Forget about trying to handle this severe political crisis. China doesn't seem to be stepping in. So what are these immediate prospects looking like?
So I think as far as the Chinese are concerned, they have clearly hedged their bets in favor of the army right now, because they have said that law and order in Pakistan should be the most important focus of attention. And they have in fact pointed out that the army has been a force of stability in Pakistan all along. So thereby meaning that, the army should step in and control the situation. Going forward, as I said, my assessment is that the army is going to toughen up in action against Imran Khan and his supporters, because it would finally like to take control of affairs in Pakistan, because it cannot continue in this manner. Of course, they would not step in directly into a direct military rule, because the complex situation which has arisen in Pakistan now, it could have more complex repercussions. but they would still like to support the current government and perhaps see to it that the supporters of Imran Khan who've gone on a rampage are arrested in large numbers and that law and order is restored. That's the first step. After that, I think it will be China, which will first like to step in with the bridging kind of loan as far as Pakistan is concerned, and then the others who have already committed themselves. I'm not so sure about the IMF being in a hurry to dole out the money unless they can see that the others have committed themselves as well. So once again, the Pakistani government, the current government of Shahbaz Sharif, will have to go and ask Saudi Arabia and the UAE to step in and to show that there are others who are supporting Pakistan in this situation, which will be followed, of course, by the IMF. As I said, that the situation of Pakistan is such, given that it's a nuclear weapon state and that its geographical location also is very important for the major powers, not just China, but also the United States. Also, its neighbors like Saudi Arabia and UAE have always sought to have stability in Pakistan. It's a nuisance, but they would like to have that kind of stable situation where the fallout does not affect them in any manner. I have a feeling that willy-nilly Pakistan will once again be bailed out and that there will be a crackdown on Imran Khan and his supporters.
It's very, very ironic in certain ways that the man who came to power on the back of the armed forces, the primary voice against the armed forces, but as we all know, there is no question of the armed forces really stepping back totally into the background in Pakistan. Shahbaz Sharif's government has not exactly been covered in glory in the past 1 year. Will bringing Nawaz Sharif back from England, is that likely to help bridge the popularity gap between somebody like an Imran Khan and a Nawaz Sharif, Ashok?
What the reports seem to suggest is that when Shahbaz Sharif had gone to London for the coronation of Charles III, then he had extended his stay by 1 day, although there was, all this mayhem going on in Pakistan. And he arrived, in fact, on the 10th, that is, day before yesterday. And then he had a cabinet meeting and then he addressed the nation also in the evening on that day. It appears there have been some negotiations with the army so that Nawaz Sharif could possibly be called back. But I think the polarization of the situation in Pakistan is so intense that it is my assessment that, just replacement of Shahbaz Sharif with Nawaz Sharif might not really yield the desired results. Now, as far as the army is concerned, Nilova, I think this has always been the experience of the army. They have brought in their blue-eyed boys to the helm of affairs, and very quickly, they have fallen apart, and they have been able to do in the past what they had wanted to do. But this time, as I said, totally unprecedented, because nowhere in the past has such a dent in the image and influence and dominance of army has been created by any of the earlier leaders. You know that Nawaz Sharif went to prison, Zardari went to prison, other prime ministers went to prison, but none of them was really able to get such support on the streets, such mass hysteria. And partly, of course, I think the reason also is that the economic situation of the country is so bad. The people are going through such difficult times. And, as we've been discussing, Pakistan has gone to the IMF 24 times, in this period of about 60, 70 years. And all the times it has been able to get succor and relief from there. Because there is this feeling in the establishment of Pakistan that it is too large and too strategically important to fail. So none of the countries would allow it to fail, so it would continue to survive through doles from, some of its friends in West Asia, China. Earlier it used to be America and now a little more on China. But that seems to be becoming increasingly difficult. So I think it's a very uncertain situation, very volatile situation. And now that Imran Khan has been set free, given bail for about 2 weeks, I think we'll really have to wait and see what the next moves of the army and of the government are going to be.
Anil, you very rightly said that the importance of Pakistan in the overall global scheme of things has declined. primarily, of course, because perhaps the Afghanistan situation has again spiraled out of control to the extent that nobody wants to get into trying to do anything, overtly in Afghanistan. But for a man who tried to sort of project the image of being squeaky clean and anti-corruptible, for him to be facing something like as many corruption charges as he's facing, particularly, this Al-Qadir Trust case seems actually to be quite a serious kind of offense under which he can be actually charged. So what are his prospects looking like at this point? He's generating this hysteria and popularity, but is he actually seen to have done all of these things?
So look, Tilova, I think, successive governments in Pakistan can be accused of wrongdoing. And I don't think Imran is, squeaky clean as his earlier image used to suggest, because obviously he and his, cohorts in the government have also done many things which perhaps are not entirely clean as far as the law is concerned. Obviously, this has been a free-for-all in Pakistan, not just for the army, but also for the civilian governments who've been ruling there. And this is why there is public anger against not just the political class, but also now the army, because that's been there for everybody to see. But having said that, I think Imran did manage to create clean image for himself, like you said, despite the corruption charges that were leveled against him. And the popular sentiment against the traditional families like the Zardaris and the Sharifs is much more intense. The feeling is that they have looted the nation colossally for decades, and Imran is actually fighting selflessly for the welfare of Pakistan. So this is the image that he's tried to create. But, given the current circumstances, I think the court decision, this will diffuse the situation to an extent. It will perhaps bring down the protest level in various places. And it depends on what Imran's next steps are. If he continues in an aggressive stance, then of course the military's image, which has been tarnished, they would not like to stand by and let Imran take center stage, because obviously this will dent their image even further.
Given the fact that Pakistan is, of course, our closest neighbor on the west, and India will be very closely and carefully waiting and watching, because if Pakistan further gets into the kind of spiral that is going downwards into, the prospects for improved relations at any point of time soon seem very difficult to anticipate. Ashok, I won't even go down the road of the recent SCO meeting when Bilawal Bhutto came to Goa and all that. But this does not augur well at all for India, Pakistan, or indeed forget about just Pakistan, also for the region.
No, absolutely. It doesn't augur well because I think this instability is not only bad for Pakistan itself, but of course we have an unsettled border of Pakistan with Afghanistan, and that could get even further. There could be problematic there. But on the Indian border also, there could be some sort of a diversionary tactics that could be used, that could be employed, by the establishment, by the army, to divert the attention of the people from what is happening within the country. Because if there is some sort of a major event that is engineered by the army against India, and then there is a response, then of course the army will call upon the nation to come to its support, because the country is in danger. The security and integrity of the country is in danger. So that is, of course, one of the aspects that is being mentioned. But, the other is
that seems a little far-fetched, wouldn't you say? Given how much of trouble they're already in, would the army actually go down such a road? They're a lot more professional than that, wouldn't you say?
I would agree with you, but then, the army or the Pakistan establishment has not been known to do the wisest of things. They have been known to sort of, shoot themselves in the foot. And you see what are the statements that are emerging out of Bilawal Bhutto Zardari even today when he's talking about Kashmir and taking up the Kashmir issue, that our support for the independence of Kashmir is not diluted in any way. So, you cannot put it beyond them, but I agree with you that it does appear to be somewhat far-fetched. That having been said, there are, a large number of these terrorist groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Hizbul Mujahideen, who are there, who have been brought up, who have been started by the establishment. So, they could also be waiting for some sort of an opportunity to launch some attacks against India. So, India needs to be definitely, on its guard, needs to be very careful, both as far as the line of control is concerned and also as far as the international border is concerned. Because you cannot really put anything beyond the Pakistan army and establishment, because as I can see, they have their back to the wall. The army has its back to the wall. The sort of statements that have been emanating, Nilova, against Imran Khan from the army and also the address to the nation that was given 2 days ago by Shahbaz Sharif, they did not leave any stone unturned to paint and project Imran Khan and his supporters as terrorists. And so I think that there is a huge divide between Imran Khan and the army, which I think will be very difficult to bridge, at least in the foreseeable future. We don't know what is going to happen beyond that, but I think it is going to be a challenge for the army as well as for the establishment. These 2 weeks are going to be crucial, because as the information minister, Mariam Aurangzeb, has said, that you are promoting, you are giving strength to mob violence by releasing Imran Khan, by giving him bail. So we'll really have to wait and see how it works out.
Thanks, Ashok, for that assessment. But again, so it's obviously clearly very, very difficult time ahead, as I said, not only for Pakistan, but also for the region as a whole. And obviously, this is a purely domestic crisis for Pakistan. But Anil, is there any way in which, a country like, say, China could help sort of moderate? Because, I remember Bilawal Bhutto saying recently that the time has come where we choose who our major friends are, whether it's the United States or China. We can't navigate this midway pass anymore. So how do you see that playing out?
So for the moment, Nilova, my assessment is that the Chinese or any other country would not like to put their head into this process, which everybody is watching very carefully. I think this is an internal process which Pakistan has to go through. And there is, of course, a very important stage where protests and rallies against the current government, and now that includes the army as well, is creating a narrative of corruption and incompetence against not just the Shahbaz Sharif government, but also against the army. So they will have to, as I said, I come back to my summation there, that they will have to crack down on this kind of widespread protest. And I think the Chinese have already given their support to the army in this process, because they would like to see law and order prevail. After all, they have a stake in Pakistan with a number of projects under the BRI, and they would like to see stability at any cost. The other issue that I wanted to just bring up very briefly, that's a source of worry for a number of countries. Most importantly, it should be a worry for India, is the control over nuclear weapons in Pakistan. So unless there is the army control over the establishments which house the nuclear weapons, and that is maintained, that could lead to major issues going forward. If that does happen, then of course there would be a number of countries around the world who would seek intervention and would like to secure Pakistan's nuclear weapons. But that's a far-fetched issue. Right now it's not on the horizon, and let's hope it stays that way.
It is genuinely a very unenviable situation, and we will look carefully and see what happens and hope the country manages to settle down and find its feet again. Thank you very much, Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar and Ambassador Anil Wadhwa. Thank you for all of your thoughts and insights.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on Deepening Politico-Economic Crisis in Pakistan. The participants were Ashok Sajjanhar and Anil Wadhwa, former diplomats, and Nilova Roy Chaudhary, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsttalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 92890 94044.